Hi, and welcome to our Henry IV Part 2 Prologue. Everything you need to know to enjoy the play. I'm Jim Helsinger, the artistic director here at Orlando Shakes, and it is my pleasure to be with you. 3 years ago, we presented Richard II, the first play in our Fire and Rain series. Just as the pandemic started, we presented Henry IV Part 1, now Henry IV 2, and next year we will finish this part of the epic with Henry V. The following season, we'll conclude it all with our largest endeavor ever, with 3 plays in the Wars of the Roses and the end of the Plantagenet dynasty. Thanks for joining us on this terrific journey. So, what's the story so far? Let's begin by looking back at what we learned already in Richard II. Edward III was a king who had 5 sons, but his firstborn and heir, the Black Prince, died prematurely, and the crown passed to his grandson, Richard II. But Richard was a wasteful and petty king. He banished his cousin, Henry Bolingbroke, who was also a grandson and possible heir to the throne, from England. And when Bolingbroke's father, John of Gaunt, died, King Richard took all of his lands. Well, Bolingbroke came back from banishment to claim his father's lands, aided by the lords of Northumberland and the Percy family of the north. Bolingbroke overthrew Richard II, seized his crown, and Bolingbroke became Henry IV. Ta-da! That's Richard II in a nutshell. Now, on to Henry IV Part 1. It begins a few years later. Henry Bolingbroke is now Henry IV. In Henry IV Part 1, Roger Mortimer, another grandson of Edward III, has been fighting for King Henry and is captured by the rebel Owen Glendower of Wales. But King Henry refuses to pay the ransom to save him. Now that's partially because Richard II, before he died, named Mortimer, another grandson, his heir. And Henry also disgraces the Percy family who helped him to the crown in Richard II. So, Harry Percy, who goes by the name Hotspur, and his father, Northumberland, become rebels. And they join with Mortimer to make him the next king. Meanwhile, at the Boar's Head Tavern, Henry's oldest son and heir, Prince Hal, is avoiding all battles by drinking and carousing with Falstaff and his band of criminals. So, the Percys form an alliance with Owen Glendower and the Scottish rebel the Douglas to fight King Henry. But before the battle, Hotspur learns that his father, Northumberland, is sick and will not join the rebels. Glendower has also not arrived. So, with a very reduced force, Hotspur and the Douglas join battle with King Henry's larger army. The battle's fierce, but eventually Prince Hal meets with Hotspur and kills him in battle. Henry IV wins the battle, and Part 1 ends with Henry's promise to completely end the rebellion and bring down the remaining rebels. So, that's the story so far. Now, let's have a look at the characters in Henry IV Part 2. King Henry IV. Now remember, he stole the crown from his cousin Richard II, and he's the father of Hal. He's now very ill. Prince Hal. He is the oldest son of Henry IV and heir to the throne. But he is a bad boy, drinking with Falstaff all the time, but he killed Hotspur and is trying to redeem himself to his father and to his country. Sir John Falstaff is Hal's absolutely immoral drinking buddy and will do anything for a cup of sack, a wine popular in England at that time. He's also a big coward. Northumberland. He helped Henry IV overthrow Richard II and then became a rebel against Henry. At the big battle in Henry IV Part 1, fearing he would lose, he pretended to be sick and abandoned his son, Hotspur, who died. Lady Kate Percy. Now she's the widow of Hotspur, the Archbishop of York. John of Lancaster, Hal's youngest brother. He's very sneaky and will outwit the rebels in this play. The Lord Chief Justice, Mistress Quickly is the tavern hostess at the Boar's Head Tavern. Falstaff owes her a lot of money, so she hires people to arrest Falstaff. And, FYI, she appears in 4 Shakespeare plays: Henry IV Part 1, Part 2, Henry V, and The Merry Wives of Windsor, more than any other female character in all of Shakespeare. Bardolph. He is one of Falstaff's men. He has a big, red, pocked nose and is an alcoholic. And FYI, he appears in 4 Shakespeare plays: Henry IV Part 1, Part 2, Henry V, Merry Wives of Windsor, more than any other male character in all of Shakespeare. So, here's a quick recap of everything we've learned so far. Richard II is dead. Henry IV is king. His son Hal will become king in this play, Henry IV Part 2, but first they need to defeat the rebels. By the way, all these fabulous comics are made by the wonderful Mia Gosling. Her website, goodticklebrain.com, shows all of her comics and has wonderful merchandise available. So check it out. I hope you enjoyed our prologue. Come back next season and join us for Henry V. If you do, you can get your passport stamped and you'll get a free set of dog tags that say, "I saw the rise of Henry V." Now enjoy the show.